So I've done League 1 and 2 playoff predictions. Now it's time for the Championship predictions for the first legs of the playoffs. So to recap, let's look at the table. Obviously, we've had a runaway winner in Coventry. We've had Ipswich wrap up second place in the end. They were pushed right up to the final day by Millwall. Only a point separating them, but they got it over the line in the end. As for playoff positions, though, we see Millwall finish third on 83 points. Both on 80 points, only separated by goal difference is Southampton 4th, Middlesbrough 5th. And goal difference is neck and neck with those two as well, because you've got 26 is the goal difference for Southampton, 25 for Middlesbrough. So that shows you how tight it is between those two. Then you've got Hull a bit further behind, very close between those three above them, but not that far behind. 73 points, a little bit further behind, but they was able to get into the playoffs for the final day as well. So let's look at the individual games we've got here. This Friday we see Hull City take on Millwall. Saturday we see Middlesbrough against Southampton at the Riverside. So yeah, two massive games here. This is very interesting. We'll talk about some stats now. Obviously we'll talk about Hull Millwall. I'll do that prediction first, and then the other game. But so the order of the teams goes. This is something that's interesting. The order of the teams, obviously, finished Millwall, Southampton, Middlesbrough, and then Hull. But if you look at the odds, the bookies' odds, favourites are Southampton, then Middlesbrough, then Millwall, then Hull. So it seems like the favourite in the final will be the winner of Middlesbrough and Southampton. So them two are the favourites, and like I say, they're facing each other. So that makes it interesting. And statistically, I mean, if you look at the goal difference, they are quite a way ahead of the other two, and all that on them sort of stats. Hull worst in terms of goal difference, at least. I think Hull are the worst by quite a way. But if you look at most sort of statistics on all that side of it, Hull seem like the outsider. They seem like the underdog going into this. But there is some very interesting stats that go in Hull City's favour that I'm gonna go through now, because some of these are quite eye-catching actually. So in terms of the playoff record of all these teams in the past, Hull City have got the best playoff record out of all of this lot, and they've won the Championship playoffs twice before. Most recently in 2016, they beat Sheffield Wednesday in the final. So they've got a good history in this type of occasion already. And Southampton have obviously won the Championship playoffs as well before, quite recently. Winning the Championship playoffs recently, only 2 years ago. And as for Millwall, they have obviously gone up through the playoff in League 1 before. But Middlesbrough, though, their playoff record is horrendous. They've got a really bad playoff record, and we see that a lot in recent years as well, actually. That doesn't necessarily, though, mean they're doomed in this, because up till quite recently as well, Sunderland had a horrendous playoff record, but then they've won two. They've gone up 4 years ago through League 1, and then they went up last year through the playoffs in the Championship as well. So, these sort of bad trends that teams have, they can be broken, but there is always going to be this sort of kind of thing just hanging over a team that's never done it before through the playoffs, or has a bad history in the playoffs going into it. There's always going to be this sort of nervousness and this sort of feeling that history can repeat itself. But these things definitely can be broken, but until they are, there's always going to be that feeling around the club, I feel like. And get this as well, in Hull City's favour. Hull have got the best head-to-head record out of all these teams, which I thought was really interesting. So both of those stats really work in their favour, and you can't always read too much into the historical side of things, but I think you can to a point. I think these things do sometimes really matter in football. Sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't come into play. But sometimes I think these sort of things we see them, they do matter. So I think it's quite interesting that those work out in their favour. And we've also got to think as well, they've got the momentum at the moment. Although they've had the bad run, they had the worst form out of everyone going into the playoffs. A 5 or 6 without a win going up to that final day. The important thing was the bad form ended on the final day, and when they got themselves to that win and got themselves over the line, and was able to sneak into the playoffs on the final day, get the 6th place. And there's always something there. I mean, the team that finishes 6th, they're just getting on the final day. They carry a bit of momentum, and it's almost like a free hit for them. Not to say that there's any less pressure on them, but it's almost like carry that momentum, and I think can make it interesting. And quite often we see in the Championship, the third place team wins it, which is obviously not the Millwall aren't the favourite going into this, although they finished third. It's just how things have sort of worked out. But quite often, first place team is sometimes we see them be quite a way clear and just miss out and be the favourite going into the playoffs. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes they're the team that gets over the line. But then quite often as well, fourth or fifth wins it. What doesn't often happen is sixth place doesn't seem to often win it. And 2010, it was Blackpool won it, and that was the last time anyone finished sixth and won the Championship playoffs. So I think it's about time for that someone else does do it. And I think although statistically they're the underdog going into this hole, there's a real feeling that that with those sort of stats there, that never know, maybe this could, the stars could align for them. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And there's been a lot of talk for a while that Southampton playoff favourites. That's been, although they've actually, if you want to do the head-to-head record, they've actually got the worst out of all of this lot. But I think that might be down to the fact that Southampton really picked up midway through the season when they underwent a managerial change. So I think maybe that's got something to do with why that is, potentially, which would explain it. But maybe a bit more. So maybe that's not. Maybe that stat is a bit misleading because they had a new manager come in, obviously. But I was thinking. I mean, when I did the National League playoffs eliminators, obviously Scunthorpe had done the double over Southend. Southend are favourites to win that game. Not many people read into the fact that Scunthorpe had done a double over them, and well, they ended up winning. So I think sometimes I think it's definitely worth acknowledging those type of things. But Southampton and Middlesbrough, I mean, a lot of people I see just predicting Southampton Millwall final. A lot of people, that seems to be the popular pick here. But it might well be that, but it definitely will not be that straightforward in getting to that point. If it is the final, I think there'll definitely be a few twists along the way, and I think that there could be a major twist in one of these games. I've just got a feeling there could be something major that happens that, the game looks like it's going one way, then just completely turns on its head, or either in the individual match or over the two legs. I think it really could be a few twists here. But Hull, Millwall are much more teams that don't have the ball. They're very much teams that counter-attacking teams for sure, and that's the complete opposite to what Middlesbrough and Southampton are like. That's the game that people are expecting more from in terms of goals, and I think that's the game overall that people are expecting to be the better game. And I see why, because they are more sort of footballing sides, I suppose you would say. They're more, although they sort of, they probably open the door for themselves to concede goals as well, but they do seem to be the teams that score more, and they've arguably got the better squads and the deeper squads and the more depth and all of that. But let's go on to the individual games. So Hull against Millwall. So what am I thinking for this one? So Djurkiewicz, he's done fantastic at Hull this season. Brilliant job he's done as manager. Really, really impressive him. Hull have had a transfer embargo. A lot of people worried for him at the start of the season. Could they even go down? Was the discussion at one point? No, certainly not. They certainly did not. They might even go up. They've had a really, really sort of good start to the season. They was always right up there amongst the promotion discussion, and they never really fell away. They was always in that playoff place, even when the form dipped a little bit. They was always looking like they were comfortably wrapped the playoffs up, and they just had that bad run at the end, and it looked like they were just going to fall short. But it all went their way on the final day, and they was able to get in there and still sixth place. So, they deserve a lot of credit. They've been absolutely fantastic this season. Off the field issues to transfer embargo, all of this stuff that was stacked against them, and they was able to produce a season like this. So whatever happens now, they've had a fantastic season, and they've proven so many people wrong, and they continue to do that all season. They've just been constantly proving people wrong, and I think that's why it'd be very dangerous at this stage to write them off, even if they do seem like a big outsider compared to the squads that the other three have, and the fact that Hull have got this transfer embargo as well. And I seriously hope if they do get promoted that they get this embargo lifted, surely, because surely they'll be able to then, because they need to in the Premier League in terms of the investing to stay up. But and Millwall equally have surprised people as well. They've been knocking on the door for the playoffs for a while, but this is finally the season they got in there. But they very nearly got in the top two, and it looked for a lot of the season like they could do it. To miss out on the final day by a point was disappointing, but I think going into the final day, realistically, they probably knew that Ipswich would win their game, and I think they probably would have been prepared for the playoff. But that said, still a bit of there is that disappointment. Obviously, third place is you can't get any closer. But coming into this, Millwall, it's hard to say how it's going to go. It could go one or two ways. Obviously, maybe they'll continue on the form they're on. They've got 3 wins out of 5. They're on good form. Maybe they'll just continue that. Maybe they'll get over the line. They'll get to Wembley and maybe even do it. I mean, statistically and all the so in terms of if you look at the squads, maybe it would favour one of the other two in the final. They could fall short, Millwall, but definitely would not write them off because no one would have expected the season to be as close as they was. 83 points to be that close to promotion. Miss out on the final day. Not a lot of people would have predicted that. So and also Alex Neil, their manager, he was the one who got Sunderland back up to the Championship after they were stuck in League One for a while. He's the one that got them the playoff win. So he's got a history of winning playoff campaigns as well. But I've just got a feeling in the first leg, I think anything could happen in that second leg at the Den. But I think Hull's home leg on Friday night, I think Hull are going to get a 2-1 win. I've got a feeling that'll be the score in that one. That's just what I think is going to happen. Then on the Riverside, on Saturday, where Middlesbrough plays Southampton, very interesting game and a very exciting game. We're looking forward to this one, and I think a lot of people are. It could be a very high-scoring tie overall because both of them do, they dominate games and they could open up space for each other to score. And I think they're the sort of teams that you maybe think, are they really going to go at each other? Is this going to be a really, really high-scoring game? Is it going to be one of those sort of ties? I certainly hope so. I think it's got the potential to be that. Middlesbrough, it's been an interesting year for Middlesbrough. At one point they're about 9 points off of. They've always been towards the top. At one point there was about 9 points off of Coventry, but they got it back. Like just after Christmas, they had a good run, and they got it. At one point they were top, and then when Rob Edwards left, I thought that would maybe be where they sort of drop off. But Hellberg he got them going quickly. There's no, at least to start with anyway, there was no drop off. But they did have that bad. It was a really good run, but then they had a really bad run. They had a run where they didn't win in 5 or something, and they threw away the chance of top 2 really. And there was never really a moment they looked like they'd drop out the playoffs. It was always going to be top 6 for them, but they wasn't able to. They did recover form in the end though. They finished really strong actually. It's worth noting though. And it was too late really. I know there's in the pitch on the final day, but it was too late to actually get in the top 2. It was that run a little while ago which cost them. But they did. But they did finish strong. They got that big 5-1 win over Watford. But then see them get the draws against Wrexham and Ipswich as well, the 2-2, both away games. So yeah, impressive that from them. It's a decent finish to the season. Now, big question mark though over Hackney's fitness going into this game, whether he'll be ready for either of the 2 legs or not. And now that could be massive. Whether he's back from injury or not, that could be huge because injuries they can make all the difference going into these type of games, especially when it gets to like a knockout sort of stage. Injuries they can make all the difference in these types of games. That could be the difference between Premier League football and not. So, yeah, that'll be big. Southampton, very much an experienced sort of young team, but they're the team that's got that Premier League experience already, which is big. I think players are still there. A lot of the players are still there from the time in the Premier League. Players like Archer and Manning and Bellis, players like that. So they've got that Premier League experience already. A lot more so, I think, than the other teams actually in this going into this playoff campaign. You can see why they're the favourites, particularly with their form coming into this. Their form's been brilliant, way better than anyone else's. They come into it, I believe, on 5 straight wins. Also, really, really good run. The only team that's beaten them in months is Man City, who narrowly beaten them in the FA Cup, and they went to the lead as well, Southampton. It's unlucky, maybe. But, they've been on an unbelievable run. Eckert has done so well since he's taken over. The start of the season was disastrous. At one point, the playoffs looked really unlikely, but they've got them going and they finished so strong. And there was even moments where it looked like they might even get in the top 2. So really good form, unbelievable finish to the season. And I think that could be massive, carrying that form coming into this. Because if the teams that aren't on such good form, even if you're already in the playoffs and you're resting players for the playoffs, it's not always a case of you can just get it back when you start up again in the playoffs if you're going in on a bad run. I know Sunderland last season, they went into the playoffs in a bad run. They shown up. It can happen, but I think going into it on the better form you're in, it gives you it gives you a better chance in theory. And I think over 2 legs, I think it'll be a very close tie. I think both teams have got quality. I think both teams are really going to go for this. So first leg at the Riverside, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game, and that's what I'm going for in that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Hull win in the first leg, and then in the other one, I'm going for a 2-2. between Middlesbrough and Southampton. So another thing though about this whole Millwall fixture that's interesting though is both of them have beaten each other away from home, as in Millwall have won at Hull and Hull have won at Millwall. So that makes that one even tighter as well. I think both games overall really, really tight. I'm not sure which way either of them's going to go. I think it'll be very interesting to see who kicks on here and gets to Wembley. So going to be doing more videos coming up soon. That's the Championship playoff predictions. I've got the other EFL leagues. I've already got predictions for that. Those first legs up. National League playoff final I'm going to do at some is coming up soon as well, and Premier League predictions. And I'm going to do a reaction to the Champions League semi-finals that have just been played as well. So look out for all of those.